about you, but when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do, half asleep, is reach out for my phone, right? And almost instantly when I pick up my phone, remove flight mode or whatever mode you're in when you don't want to be disturbed, I go into this zone where I'm starting to open apps and the news feeds and starting to delete emails and look at text and so on instantly. I feel like I'm getting into some kind of sports mode. And you know what, maybe it's a good idea that we save the picture because it could be pretty gross. Even though I picked one, that wasn't too bad. So this guy can eat 75 hot dogs in 10 minutes. And when I'm on a Twitter feed, look at my email, it's about the same pace, right? If he looks like a hot dog, then okay, process. Problem we have is that everybody has moved into this mode now where there's an abundance of information, right? So, thank you. Finding So with the abundance of information we all face with comes, a lack of attention. And if you're in marketing, this is one of the key assets, one of the key things you're striving for, is to get people's attention so that you can tell your story. The average attention span of a user today online is 8 seconds. I'm sure you've heard that before, right? Less than a goldfish, right? I'll repeat that. Okay, so that means you're basically marketing to goldfishes. I mean, that's kind of the mindset today, right? It's really, really difficult to get attention. So if you try to understand, what we can do about this, there are multiple things that are going to come our way very soon. I'm very excited to share some of that with you that are going to change the game. Do you know this person? Tim Berners-Lee? Okay, he's not a fast eater, I was told, okay? He's a British guy, invented the web, the World Wide Web, 30 years ago. It's been a long time. Okay, we tend to forget that, but it's been a long time that the concepts were built. And what I want you to do is not to focus on him, by the way, more on what's to the left here, the computer. Because when you invent technologies like this, you do it in a certain context, right? And the context at that time was big screens, no mobility, keyboards, mouse, right? This little device was 20 years in the making, wasn't anywhere close. So a lot of the concept behind the web were based on information, trying to collect and link information. That's what we've done for 30 years, right? And this is what leads us to this point we are now, where we have this information overload. So the concept of the web are coming to some kind of plateau now when it comes to what we want to do as far as communication, building brands, trying to build better stories, communicate at a more emotional level with people. The web is not going to take us there. It's just going to be a piece of it. But beside that, there's a huge area that's opening up, that opens up opportunities. I'm really excited to share that with you because I believe that this group here is uniquely positioned to take advantage of this. That's the future. Believe me. In 20 minutes, you'll be convinced why. Mark Zuckerberg introduced, copied, essentially, Snapchat, right, with these filters about last year. One thing that is fascinating about this, outside of Mark Zuckerberg putting bunny ears on his face, is the fact that the primary interface to this digital experience is not a browser, it's your camera. Snapchat today defines itself not as a social media company, but as a camera company. Okay? So, what's happening here? If you look at Mark Zuckerberg, what's the big breakthrough here? The big breakthrough is that for the past 30 years, we've been putting pixels within the frame of a screen, right? That's my previous point. That's where Pixel lived. The pixels were within the four corners of the screen. And all of a sudden, with this concept of filters, we started to realize we could put pixels in the physical world. In this case, on Mark Zuckerberg's face, but it could go anywhere, right? Let me give you an example, something really more interesting. This is a small art gallery in Boston, International Poster Gallery. When you walk in, that's how it looks like. It's a picture, I got a couple of pictures I took when I went there. Posters everywhere, mid-century, last century posters, a lot of beautiful pieces. And what did they do? Like everybody else, a website, right? So they have 5,000 art pieces on this site, and it looks like any other site. I mean, that's one thing that has happened over the past few years. Every website looks pretty much the same. I mean, let's face it, it's very, very hard to differentiate on the web. Thanks to, WordPress and plugins and designs and, a lot of things have been commoditized, so it's, everything looks about the same. This is the experience in the store, right? So what you saw just before in this little snippet on the page looks like this. It's a big piece. It's very vibrant. It's a great experience. It's a fascinating experience to be looking at those pieces in real size. And so what they've decided to do is to say, you know what, we're going to take another approach. What we're going to do is turn those posters into a new form of asset, into those pixels that could go on somebody's wall versus pixel that goes on somebody's screen. So they've created what I call digital twins, essentially replicas of those physical objects into something that you can place through a camera. Let me show you how it works when you walk into the store. Basically, the conversation would go something like this. You would walk in and say, I have this big house, I have a big wall, I grew up in Europe, I love foie gras, what do you have? Okay, and then Jim would come back, the owner, and say, you know what, I'm going to think about it. Out of 5,000 posters we have, and I'm going to send you something. And so you get home, and now you go from this physical interaction to some kind of follow-up through an email, for instance. And this email contains links, and it contains links to those digital twins. Right? So you click on one of those twins, and your camera opens up. You're in your home now. And those pixels now start to make it into your room. So you place them on a wall, and they stick to that wall. It feels like they're there. Right? So that's a twin, and then you can walk back with your phone. Be careful when you're walking back, of course. Go around the table, look at different angles, look at the frame, look at the mat, look at the size, look at the color. That's it. One email. You moved into a camera experience with a digital twin. Okay, that's the bunny ears. That makes sense to me, at least. I'm not a big bunny ear fan. But that's what you can do with this technology, is take pixels from a screen and start to project them in the physical world to create an illusion of presence. Okay? So some of the thing that makes this digital twin special is, like I mentioned, the experience via camera. It's a mobile-only experience. That doesn't work on a desktop. Okay, there's no way you can make this on a desktop because you have to move around. I mean, your hand becomes your interface. They're scale and space aware. Okay, so that means that if I send you a digital twin, that digital twin has a size, a physical size. And it's going to be rendered at that size. So in that case, what you saw was the exact size of the piece, right? So again, one benefit. It also can be placed on physical elements around you, different geometry, walls, floors, kitchen counters. It's going to rest there. It's going to feel like it's anchored to that surface. They're interactive. They're digital objects. They're not physical objects, obviously, but they're not just pixels in a camera. They're objects that you can interact with. You can touch them to place them. You can touch them to go somewhere. You can associate actions to them. And most importantly, they're trackable, right? I mean, marketing, we all love being able to track, interaction, impressions, click-through rates. Same thing's possible here, because again, while they appear physical, they're digital elements. So you can measure all those things that we've been measuring for years with traditional media. So this is what we're talking about. We're talking about digital twins, right? And you might be thinking, okay, well, maybe I'm selling something that's not something that has a lot of interest for customer to turn into a twin. But there are other things you can turn into a twin, like a space, like your plants, your office, right? This is what the spatial web is about. It's moving content off screen into these real world experiences. And this is what Merit is doing with it. So Merit has an experience where you can create a little portal in your room and you walk physically through it. And when you walk through it, you enter this other space, right? You see your resort, 360 video, so you're kind of in the middle of the video and you're using your hand to get a feel for what it looks like. Very simple. And you do it at your own pace. And when you're done, you're going to see the door back right here. So you walk back, and you're seeing the sides here, so you're still in your space, right? You're still in your space. You just project it into another space through your screen. And your brain fills in the blanks. That's the beauty of this. And we'll talk about the cognitive side in a second, about what this, what's happening there. There's another example of a museum in Sweden. And what they've done is a volumetric reconstruction of one of their rooms, a very old castle that they turned into a museum. And what you can do here is walk through, physically walk through. It's not just this 360 video around you. You can walk through the space. And you get a feel for the artwork, for what's there. You can get audio with that too, right? So as you can get something, you can have some comments that come up. Because again, it's an asset. It's like a game object. Everybody playing game knows there's a lot you can do with game. It is the same kind of asset we're talking about here. Very rich from what you can do from an interaction perspective. Sorry, I just realized that the video is not synced in the right monitor here. So you're walking through the museum right here, and you're seeing the artwork, you're seeing the space, and you're progressing with your phone, right? The space, the digital twin is actually around you. You're in the middle of the digital twin in that case. Right? It's not something on your table, it's something that's around you. And again, you get a feel for how things look like. You get a feel for the art. And again, this could be something that is important to your brand. Maybe the product is not what makes a brand unique. Maybe it's the space, it's the fact it's where it's built. It's the town where you have your headquarters and how you interact with people. It could be the manufacturing process that's very unique, it's very manual, it's something that requires a lot of work, and you want to convey that to someone. Right? So it could be a twin of that. Another kind of twin you can create are twins of people. Right? So maybe the best thing you want to send is a hologram of, in that case, a model. That's what Zara is doing, but it could be a technician. Somebody talking about a product. It could be your CEO, somebody who wants to, is passionate about a topic and can explain something. So, in that case, the way it works is that you, again, camera experience, and it's attached to some visual markers that you see here, and you can explore certain styles. And the idea is that if you like the style, then you can go and continue to the right section of the website and go and purchase those items. Right? So those are different kind of things you can create with those experiences. So this is the raw material. This is the new form of content that you can create today. You can turn a lot of your content into those digital twins. The other side of this is how you distribute that. And this is where I think there's a tremendous opportunity for anybody in the print business. If we start to put pixels and content into people's homes, into offices, into businesses, and we're able to place content in those locations, the gateway to the internet is different from what we know today. Today it's Google, right? SEO. If you're not ranked properly, you don't get traffic. It could be Amazon, if you're selling through Amazon and you got to show well on Amazon. Or just promoting your URLs, right? That's kind of the ways you have to kind of get traffic. Moving forward, if the camera replaces the browser, well, guess what? Somebody's kitchen counter becomes a digital platform. You're going to put your phone on your kitchen counter and content will appear, right? So that's the era that we're just about to enter. And if you are Starbucks competing against Dunkin' Donuts for my business every day, I tell you, the kitchen counter from 6 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. is where you want to be, right? If I can pull out my phone and I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to have for breakfast, I'm just looking at my kitchen counter and I see a nice donut and a nice coffee and 20% off or whatever, that might be it. That might be how I want to, how I'm going to make a decision to go buy this donut. That technology is available today, and it's going to start deploying and making its way into our daily life in the next few years. It's a new form of experience, very rich. It's very simple. Let me give you an example that might talk to you. Do you think this is a catalog? You're half right. This is a catalog, right? Just a regular catalog about watches. But it's more than that. It is a digital platform. It carries some samples and some interactive content with it. Let me show you. If you point your phone to this catalog, you're going to point your phone to this catalog. We've attached content through, in that case, a QR code. It's not through an image or any other way. It's just a QR code that holds that. But that QR code, instead of taking you to traditional web browser, takes you to the camera. Here we go. And it's going to go bring you that experience right here on your living room. So it brings you a watch, and you can see the rendering, the quality that we can achieve. Right? Again, reflection, there's a lot of gaming technology that is now available to create those experiences. And you can see that product's right there in front of you. And here, that experience is also complemented with a little cube there with a couple of curated information that we want to give. Here it's kind of a branding video that explains, what the brand is about. The history of that brand. Timex it's been around a long time, and you want people to know about it. They're not a kind of a cheap knockoff of anything. You want to see the value of the brand right there. This one is a link to the actual product page right there. No need to search on Google. No need to get people lost, on the website. Just give them the link, and you can put in a phone number. And by the way, you're on the phone, so if you click on it, it's going to call a number. Right? So that experience moved out of your catalog on your table. You don't need the catalog. The things are going to stay there until you close your app or change channel, and that's it. This entire experience here requires no typing whatsoever. I never typed anything. I just pulled my phone, scanned the things, moved around. I never searched on Google. I never typed a URL. Everything is right there in front of me. Okay, and the catalog becomes the vehicle to that experience. So I believe there is an opportunity here to change how we've been thinking about how we go from print to digital. An additional pathway that can provide a lot of value for the consumer and also guarantee that people don't get lost along the way, right? You can start with a catalog. That catalog has some kind of digital twin. Again, it doesn't have to be the product. It could be a spokesperson. Somebody showing you how the product works. It could be, again, anybody that you think is going to help you convey something emotionally strong and powerful with the user. The user is going to see value because they're going to consume that content very quickly in a way that's frictionless. And then you can take them to wherever you want to take them, directly from that experience, right? So you can create a path to a point of purchase, a point of decision that is very new, it's very simple, and has a lot of value along the way. That's how I want you to think about catalogs moving forward. You have that opportunity to take every piece of content you mail and turn this into a placement opportunity in somebody's home, right? That's what's going to be here tomorrow, and you can be at the forefront of that transition. So the spatial web, which is a term you might hear, and you're not hearing me talk much about augmented reality. I mean, augmented reality is just a piece of that entire new shift, right? It's augmenting reality. It's also understanding reality, right? To be able to augment, you need to be able to understand that there's a table, there's a kitchen counter, there's a wall. So all those things are much broader than just augmented reality. But the spatial web has some, I just wanted to sum up some attributes here. So browser, traditional web, a device camera. Device is a phone today, right? It could be something else tomorrow. We'll come back to that. The on-screen web starts with URLs of Google. The spatial web can start with URL. You saw the catalog with the URL that you could scan, right? That's one way to do it. URL you could put in the email to send the poster to somebody through an email. But it could also be placed and persisted in a space. So you can, Pokemons, right? You can place content allocations and have people cover it. You can place it on barcodes if you're doing retail, right? If you're a retailer, you can attach a new experience, some kind of barcode 2.0, where when you scan the barcode, content appears right there with the product or on the product itself. These are different form of things that you can now attach content to that was not possible a few years ago. The web is about information. The spatial web is about emotion. It's about experience, about storytelling, right? It's not about the product. It's about experiencing the product. It's about a product telling a story. We're working with somebody right now who's making windows. And you would think, what is there to tell about Windows? I tell you, there's a lot to tell about a window. And you can create a window that tells its own story, that comes with a technician that explains you the multi-frame chamber and, spatial glass options and welded frame and all those things. And they're very important. So you can create products now that have a story attached to them. And we're moving from, the web of mouse and keyboard to another form of interaction. When you're in this world with this camera, you're just touching things. Your interaction is very natural. You're moving your hand to zoom. You want to see a detail? Just get closer. There's no pinching of, it's a very natural form of interaction. You're in a room, you just walk to something to look at it, right? So it's almost like you have to undo your you deprogram yourself from the traditional modes of interaction, but they're very natural. Voice has made phenomenal progress the past 2 years. So you'll be able to say, hey, show me this. Show me this model. So all this is coming together very, very fast. You might be thinking, okay, so this all looks good, but is there any proof point? What are people saying out there? People who've tried this, and I want to share a little bit of the cognitive side of this. What is it that we're starting to understand now about those experiences versus the web experiences? And I'll start by sharing a personal story. When I was 10 years old, I'm into computer science because of this little green catalog here. Anybody used Atari, in their younger days, right? I was 10 years old, walked into a store in France, saw this thing, picked up a catalog, and for a year I had this next to my bed. And every night I would read this thing, and I would dream about all the stories. The graphics were absolutely awful, especially to these standards. The stories were fascinating, right? It got you to think, to dream, to learn about different ideas and things you could do. To this day, when I found those pictures, I could feel the emotions that I had when I was a kid today, right? So there's something about the emotions that those things can carry. And the web doesn't have that today. There's something about how certain things are able to create connections in your brain with your emotions. And what we're realizing today is that the web has been about the prefrontal cortex, the part that makes decision. A lot of the way the content is designed is textuals, comparisons, star rating. Okay, you're going to buy something, let me go get the star rating. Why? Because you want to rationalize your purchase. You want to compare things, you want to search. This is the world of the web, and the web is really good at that. There's no replacing that. This is perfect. For marketers, really the part that can move the needle is the emotional part. If you're a small manufacturer in Maine and you're making something unique, you want to tell that story. You want people to know about it. You want to know it's made in the US. You want to know how it's made. What's the story of the founder? You know, how do you tell the story in a way that's compelling? That's not the web that we have today. Again, 8 seconds, right? It's hard to tell a good story in 8 seconds. But if I unfold the story around you, I have a lot more at my disposal. I might not take a lot more than 8 seconds. I might take 15 seconds, but I can tell you a whole lot more this way. MIT wanted to know, how do those experiences affect your ability to retain information? Which again, if you're a marketer who's spending money building brands, you want that information to stick, right? So what they did is they took 2 groups of students and they tasked them with one thing: to remember 30 years of Super Bowl winners, year after year. Starting given year, 30 years later, 30 teams. One team had a text, just a regular year team name. And the other team had an AR experience. So what they did is, from the journey from the subway to the MIT building where they ran the experiment, they've placed, in order, in sequence, 30 visual symbols that represented each winner, in context. Okay, so it looked a little bit like this. So, in fact, it looked exactly like this. Upper left, you're in the subway station, you're about to leave. Somebody holding packages. That was the Green Bay Packers, okay? 1967, 1968, again, Green Bay Packers, right before the elevator. Then you're moving to the street, you see a jet. Right as you walk out of the subway, you see a jet right in the street. And then you see a chief, and then the Colt, and then the Cowboys, and so on and so forth, right? So, same content, presented in 2 different ways. Facts and text, augmented reality. And what they realized is that while after 2 minutes, the result, the retention was about the same, the accuracy was about the same. It was around 35% for both groups. So the one that had the text could remember, for a very short period. After 7 days, the one group still could do 95%. The other group, 35% accuracy. Same content, 30 years, just 2 different techniques. And what we're starting to understand now is that the brain processes that information very differently when it's presented in space, because we memorize information in space, right? So the power of that technique is also that you're going to get retention for whatever you're providing, for whatever you're communicating on. That's a lot stronger than what we have today. House, one of the companies that is jumping on this, obviously for good reason. They sell furnitures. Great experience. You want to try the furnitures in your home. IKEA is doing the same, Wayfair. They share the results. They had 1 million people going through the app, so it is significant. This is statistically relevant. And they realized that the people who went through the experience were 11 times more likely to buy than people who did not go through the experience. So they're doubling down on this, obviously. But the other metric that they realized was important to them is the engagement. People stayed longer. They looked at more stuff. Because it's just a better experience. You want to try different things. It's easy. No hassle. So these are 2 important metrics alongside the retention that I think constitute the basis of that new medium that we're talking about. Okay. AR is not about a new device. It's not about a new headset. It's about a new medium. That's what we're building here, right? It's a new form of communication. And I couldn't resist to share that story with you. It's a small non-profit in Toronto that has done something that when you see it, you'll realize that anybody can do what we're talking about here. It's a kitchen that opened up to help refugees from Syria, and women in particular, find a place in the local society there. So what they do is they open up the kitchen, those women come in every day, they cook traditional Syrian meals. And they sell those just like, Blue Apron or, same concept, shipped to your home every day. And what you see in the upper right corner there is on one of the walls, they basically stuck a green piece of cloth, right, green screen, and they're talking about what they've cooked that day. And when you get your food, with the food, at your kitchen table, you can hear the story of what they cooked. And that's an actual recording from one of their tabbouleh, famous recipe from, part of Syria. And they talk about the ingredients, they talk about how they make it. You can see the ingredients with a little simple image there. This is not even 3D, it's just an image that's floating in the air. But for you as a consumer, you have the food right in front of you, the smell, you have the people telling you about the story. This is a very powerful experience, right? That content could live on YouTube too. It's not the same power, the same emotional connection you can create. Again, your brain is going to remove all the clutter and it's going to focus on an experience. So, these are the kind of things that are possible today. This is not sci-fi. There's a lot of AR that's way out there. These are things that you can start to put into action very, very quickly. The big thing that has changed in that space too is that the manufacturers, the hardware manufacturers, have jumped in a big, big way. Why is that? Well, if you look at an AR experience, it leverages pretty much all the best the phone has to offer. And like I said, these experiences only exist on phones. So if you're making phones, this is the new media. This is the media for this new generation of phones. Uses sensors when I'm moving my hands around. All those little sensors that understand if your phone is tilted, all comes into play. It's using, obviously, the camera. The live camera is very central, and the computation behind it to understand surfaces, walls, tables. And then obviously everything that's been invested from the standpoint of turning phones into game consoles comes into play. It's all there, hardware accelerated and everything. So there's a lot of tech in those phones that makes complete sense for those experiences. I worked for IBM for a few years, and some of you might remember the first computer that beat Gary Kasparov at chess. That was a huge deal, 1997. It was a massive investment. It was a big machine, right? It was a huge breakthrough in terms of our thinking about what you could do with computers. Entry-level iPhone 7. That's cheapest. That's the lower end of the iPhone 9 today. $449, 22 times the computational power of the computer that beat Kasparov. There's a lot of oomph in those phones, right? And the manufacturers, they know that this is a new opportunity for them to bring new hardware, to bring new innovation. Besides the obvious about the new services you could provide, right? There's a huge draw to open up multi-billion-dollar markets. And this kind of experiences, this new web, that has the potential to transform how we interact and use technology. If you've been doing AR, because again, AR has been around for a long time. It's been around for, I would say computer vision has been around for 20, 25 years. It used to be small players. You can do little things, you can have maybe, like on a catalog, have something pop, but again, it would stick to that little image, it would be stuck to that and so on. Fast forward, 2 years ago to today, that landscape has transformed 180 degrees. Now have Apple, Google, Microsoft, PTC, they're calling the shots. They're the dominant players. that has completely transformed that space. We've made more progress in 24 months from a technology perspective than in 24 years. Significant breakthrough in terms of capabilities, in terms of cost going down. So there's a lot there. This is an interesting quote. You know, Apple is completely vested into this. They made acquisitions. They have patents left and right about things that, you know, are going to come in that space. They believe this is a game changer for technology. So, by the way, this is Tim Cook, as you know, Team Apple, if in those days, it's sometimes called. Glasses. Okay, this is an actual glass from a Canadian company, an AR set of glasses. You know, it's more like the Warby Parker version versus the Google Glass version, okay? But that's kind of what we're talking about. You know, this is going to come. This is going to be here in a few years. We're going to have glasses that don't look freaky. They're not huge headsets. They're going to be tethered to the phone. So the phone is going to do a lot of the computation. So you have to put this in a headset. And they're going to look normal. And they're going to be used for things like enhancing your vision. You know, they talk that if I can put screens in front of my eyes, I can see better. I can replace glasses. I can look further. I can zoom. I can see through cloud. I can have all the filters that we typically have on photos in real time in front of my eyes. So I can see more details. I can go through smoke if I'm a firefighter. So there's a lot of enhancement to human vision that can come from well-designed glasses. So there will be potentially a draw that's even much bigger than AR. So there's a lot of things converging at the same time that would open up that space. So with that, how do you get started? Okay, so again, like I said, there's a lot you can do today. My first advice is to find which story you want to tell and you want to augment. Is it a product story? Is it a company story? Is it a story about someone that needs to talk? What is it? Then don't focus on the feature, focus on what is the emotions you want to generate. You want people to understand your roots and feel attached to that and put value to that. What is it you want them to feel? Because that's what the design point is going to be. It's not a feature list. It's about the story. It's about what you want to show them. And then because those things are so visual, you can storyboard the experience. You can storyboard this very easily. Take a whiteboard. It's okay, I want to have a hologram here. I'm going to have this appear right there. It's just simple. It's not web design or very complex things. You can start to think in terms of elements that, twins that you want to place in a physical environment. And finally, reach for simple tools. Okay, there's a lot of tools out there. Some of them come from the gaming world, and some of them are very simple to use. There's a lot of good tools that are simple to use. Start with 360 videos, very simple to produce, but very powerful if done right. And get your feet wet. That's my best advice to you. With that, thank you very much. I'll be around and happy to maybe take a few questions, or thank you.
Any questions?
I have one.
Thank you.
Are you able to also put products into a shopping cart?
Am I what, sorry?
Are you able to, like with VR, are you able to take that product and then stick it into a shopping cart? Could you explain that?
When you interact through the camera with those objects can carry some unique identifier, if you want, like a SKU. Right? So think about the watch, for instance. So the watch would have a SKU. And when I'm interacting with it, the pixel that I put on the table there, they're just more than the pixel. They're the pixel with an understanding of that component, that element being something that can be sent to your shopping cart to continue the journey. So for instance, the poster, when you saw the example of the poster, there's a little button back on the upper left corner. When you click on this, it takes you straight to the website on the shopping page, for that particular SKU. Right? So now you can just go and continue your journey from there. So yes. Yep. Yes.
I think you said that there are simple tools for 360-degree videos. Can you name any of them?
Yeah, I mean, you could start with a Ricoh camera. Costs probably $400. You put it on a stick, and it's going to start recording 360 and stitch them for you. Right. So the production of it is very cheap. Then the distribution of that, there are tools out there that, like Hoverlay, I mean, is one. Our platform is one of the platforms, but there are several platforms you can use for 360 that are very easy to use. So, yeah. I can give you a list later if you're interested in that specifics. But that's what we do. I mean, that's our mission is to provide a platform for people with no computer science background to be able to produce content like kind of a WordPress for those experiences. Yes.
Can you shed some light on what the costs are relative to what considered typical marketing costs for other channels that are out there now? How does this compare? And as an early adopter, where is this going price-wise now?
So that's a great question. So prices are going down. So you have until now pretty much everything was custom built. You need AR, you build an app. Building an app costs you between $60,000 all the way up to, if you're IKEA, I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the content is bundled into that app, so every time you got to maintain it and so on. So for most, this is not viable as an option. I mean, it works for some high-end, like very large businesses, but for most it's not. What has changed over the past 2 years is the appearance of platforms. So the platform is essentially pre-built components, a server that's ready-made, like a content management system for AR, where you put your content, and you have a camera that you can use that's off the shelf, that's free, to render that content. And pricing there can start as little as about $3,000 for a year, with some content. So you kind of go from something that costs tens of thousands of dollars to something that's within a reasonable marketing budget. And again, it goes up if you consume more, but it can be really, really cost effective. Yes?
Have you seen anything in terms of the adoption in regard to the age demographics that are using this tool? And if you do have that data, do you know if it's trending more so in terms of adoption over the last couple of years for an older demographic?
So we don't have enough, I think, good data, and I think House might have that, people like that have that. We personally don't. What we've observed is that the younger generation has zero problem with that concept because everybody's using Snapchat. And the idea that the camera can compute, can do things more than just taking pictures is a given, right? So there's an entire generation that, okay, what's the big deal? I can see a watch on my table. Okay, great, I love that. It's a good experience. So there's no resistance there at all. For older people, what we've realized is that once they pass the training phase, there's actually a lot of appeal for them because they feel like it's a much easier experience to go from an email to the poster on my wall. And we have examples now that, show us that people tend to gravitate toward those experiences when they're available. So we think there's very little friction. And again, simple usually tend to win. Things are simpler, tend to take over, things are more complex. So, but again, I think House would be a good place to go and look at more, more analytics on this data. So it's more anecdotal than what we've observed, doing this, time and time again. So. Any other question? Well, thank you. So I'll be around, and please.